March 15th, 2026, in the year of our Lord, we are back with another episode of High Off the Glass. I am happy to be here. Sorry I missed y'all last week. I was tired. I needed to rest. The audience is hyped. They're happy to be here. I'm glad y'all are. We have a special guest today. I have been trying to talk to this brother for a minute. I am so happy that I have this young man on the show. The brother's voice, he sounds a hell of a lot younger than he actually is. And but because every time you hear him, you think for sure this cat about 20, 30 years old. But this is a grown man that be doing grown man stuff, has been doing it for a while, man. Everybody give it up for my favorite Sirius XM former host, Gerald Brown. Everybody give it up for Gerald Brown. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm not a former host. I'm still there.
My bad. That's true. That's true. Former host of the BottomLine Sports Show, and I'm glad they still have you there, even though they need to have that show back because that show was excellent. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. Give me another option, man. Another option.
I feel you. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Okay, so how I wanted to do this, right? Like I told you, I wanted to interview you, and then we'll get into the basketball stuff because there's a lot of basketball to get into. But I want to learn about you. I want to learn about Gerald Brown. I'm assuming you from born and raised in the city. We call it the city in Springfield, Mass, where I'm from. New York City, is that your home? Is that what your birthplace?
Yes, it is. Okay, Harlem, New York. Harlem, New York.
Harlem. Oh my goodness, you can't get no better than that. Rest in peace, Big L. That was the man. All right, so born and raised in Harlem, so I guess basketball, I kind of feel like because it was like this with me. Was it injected into your veins at a very early age? Like, I mean, how did it go for you?
Actually, what's interesting is that growing up, it was basketball, but also baseball, man. I really enjoyed baseball.
Okay.
It was something about, just seeing, being able to go past Yankee Stadium. And, it was a point in time where I lived in upper Manhattan.
Wow.
And I was able to walk to Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
And be able to go in and about the 6th or 7th inning, they would start, the police officers, they would let people in and be able to go in there for like maybe $2, $3 or so. They let you in, see the rest of the game.
That's beautiful.
So it was almost like I was a kid in a candy store, but I loved baseball. And then basketball just really consumed me because obviously in, the New York City area, where you have basketball courts, which don't really take up too much space. That's the game of the inner city. So it really grew on me. But I got to say the first love at one point was baseball.
No doubt. And that's back when Steinbrenner was running it and he spent money, unlike his cheap-ass sons. His sons get on my nerves. I don't like how they cater to a conservative right-wing haters like Charlie Kirk. I think that led to the Yankees' demise last postseason. Spend some damn money, and Giancarlo, can you stay healthy? That's my only question. I'm a Yankee fan myself, Mr. Brown. So
okay,
well,
I know most people from Springfield, Mass, because my ex-wife is from Springfield, Massachusetts. Nice. So I know a lot about that Springfield, Mass area, but it's kind of like the tail end of Massachusetts, where you're closer to Connecticut, New York, than you are to Boston. So a lot of the times the allegiance is to the New York Yankees. I mean, Rick is not that far also, right. Rick Mahorn. So he's also a Yankee fan as well.
Right, Hartford, he repping Hartford. And I get it. And the crazy part is, right, you're right, we're closer to Boston, but we gravitate to, like where I'm from, Western Mass, we gravitate towards Connecticut teams and New York teams. We just do. But it's always been Celtic first for me. But tell me about your upbringing, bro. Like 2-parent household, brothers and sisters. How was that?
Yeah, it was 1.2 2-parent household. I had a brother, he since passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
And the sisters. So just that kind of household and stuff like that, just growing up. And my parents got divorced pretty much when I was probably about 8, 9 or so, maybe about 10.
Right.
But at that point in time, just a New York City kid, and had an amazing experience, which actually helped me out so many ways. Where walking into a sneaker store, I was with my dad in Harlem, and guy, pretty much was talking to my dad, and he liked me and said, hey, offer him a job. I was about 14, 15, so I had to work off the books.
Wow.
And I remember working I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. It was a Saturday or so. and a lady came in there, and nobody really wanted to help her because she was getting ready to. We were getting ready to close the store up, and so this lady was just, I was a kid, and I mean, she was a beautiful Black woman. I said, hey, I ain't got nothing to lose. I love helping the ladies, especially when they're beautiful like that.
No doubt.
And, she took her time, and she didn't know what she wanted, but, she could feel the pressure of people just rushing her on.
Yeah.
And I just basically told her, no, don't worry about that. I helped her as if we had just opened up the store. And this lady basically leaned into me as I was helping her, brought out a couple pairs of sneakers. And she said, you like basketball? I said, yeah, I love it. And she said, how would you like to work for the New York Knicks? And
what?
I said, yes. And she gave me her business card.
Oh my goodness.
And this lady, Leah Wilcox, connected with her and really introduced me to working with the New York Knicks. And she's actually going into the Hall of Fame.
What?
Springfield? Yeah, yes.
What?
Yes, Leah Wilcox will be a part of the Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony in the fall. So yes, wow. Leah Wilcox is still a part of that NBA regime, and she's been again a tremendous joy. And I still stay in contact with her now. So I always tell that story about being kind to someone just really opened up a door for me that's given me amazing experiences.
No doubt. You never know who you're interacting with. That is how old were you when this happened, Gerald? How old were you?
I was probably about 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I remember you on the show saying how you were a Celtic ball boy when you were up in Boston going to school, but then Red got rid of you because he knew you had the New York ties. But you were a Knick ball boy first?
Yes. So that just, again, when you're part of the and actually Stephan Bondy, shout out to Stephan Bondy of the New York Post, did this article on me about this some years ago.
Wow.
So, going to school there, and the shout out to Mike Saunders, the longtime trainer of the Knicks, got in touch with a guy, Ed Lacerte, who was the trainer, and Wayne LeBeau, a longtime equipment manager for the Boston Celtics. And I was going to school in the area. And he said, hey, you know what? You want to earn some money? He's a great young man. Basically got me the job working for the Celtics. So
wow.
That was the experience there. And that was a great experience because at that point in time, going to school there, my school wasn't that far from where Larry Bird lived. So I had the experience of one time going, back in the days when, they have those Sunday CBS games start about 1.
Heck yeah.
And, in Boston, the T doesn't run 24 hours like in New York City.
Right.
But long story short, Larry gave me a ride, and I rode to the old Boston Garden with Larry Bird.
Stop. Don't play with me, Gerald. You rode with Larry. What year was this?
You know what? It's so funny because it is the year that the Knicks actually beat the Celtics and came back. They were down, I think, 2-0.
Okay.
And they won 3 straight.
Whoa.
And beat the Celtics. And I think Patrick Ewing hits the iconic 3 in the corner. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that might have been the tail end of Bird's career. But,
is that like 91, 90? What year was that?
I'd say about 90, 91. It's one of those years. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Where did you go to school?
I went to a school called Mount Ida College. Just since they went bankrupt and sold their property up in Boston. But he lived not that far from me. And so as a kid, I was like, man, everybody gonna know me. I'm gonna have Larry Bird come to the school and get me. So I told everybody, and I thought he was gonna get out the car, and I purposely was late. And Larry pulled up, and he had this regular blue, I think it was a Ranger, like one of those SUVs and stuff, Blue Rangers, nothing, nothing fancy, whatever. And he just stayed in the car. It was a tent.
Yeah.
He just stayed in the car. And so my friends was like, he got to get out. They was like, nah. I was like, they was like, they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But he didn't get out. And I got in the car. And the interesting thing about Larry Bird, you've heard all the stories about him trash talking from the entire time we were in the car. And this is probably about 20, 25-minute ride.
Right.
All he talked about was he talked trash.
About who?
He just talked like the Knicks. Yeah. Johnny Newman can't guard me. I don't even know why they have him guard me. He can't guard me. It's a problem. I don't even know why they got him guarding me.
Dude.
But he was just really a great guy. He was just such a great competitor. And so the story behind Red Auerbach getting rid of me, they basically told me that, they know they were going to play the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. And this was back when it was 3 out of 5, not 4 out of 7.
Okay. And how long were you the ball boy at this point? How long were you the ball boy for the Celtics at this point?
Probably just for a season, if that. Yeah,
okay,
it was not that long.
Okay.
So, he basically, when the Knicks came in to play them, I was excited. Yeah, up under the basket cheering and stuff. And so the next day, they blew out the Knicks. I think they blew out the Knicks in game 1. I come in for game 2. The story I heard was in between game 1 and game 2, they watched the film. Larry goes out and says, "Look at Gerald over there clapping and for them Knicks." Oh! And I had the Celtics stuff. And he was just playing.
Oh, snap.
Red hears that, and Red says, "Get rid of that kid."
Oh, my goodness.
Game 2 comes along. And I'm in the locker room, and I had a crazy experience, man, where somebody stole my coat out of the Celtics locker room.
What?
Yeah, prior to that, somebody had stole my coat out of there, and God rest his soul, Dennis Johnson actually gave me money. Yeah, and gave me money to buy another coat and stuff. But that was when after that, I was in the locker room. And I actually was getting ready for the game. I was all dressed and used the restroom. And so one of the older ball boys came in there and was like, "Hey," he gave me this envelope full of cash and said, "You've been fired. Red Auerbach fired you for cheering for the Knicks." So I laughed. I was like, "Get out of here, man. What's wrong with you?" Because everybody knew I was a Knick ball boy.
Right.
And he was serious. And I was so shocked that I had tears in my eyes. So I couldn't believe it. And I left out and went into the Knicks locker room. And they were like, "What? What's going on? What happened?"
Yeah.
And they were all like, "Nah, you stay with us. Nah, stay." And so they told me to stay. I can't remember because I didn't have any Knicks apparel or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they lose game 2. They go back to the Garden. I show up. They gave me a Knicks apparel and stuff. It was like, "Nah, you working with us." They win game 3. And 4 at home, and then the deciding game, they was like, "Yo, you got to come to the game. Got to come to the game." And they win that game, and they were egging me on to throw a towel on the Leprechaun. And if there's some video out, and I think I might have posted it in the past, where I stood up and started waving the towel when that game was almost over, and the Knicks had it in hand, especially when Patrick hit the 3.
Right.
I stood up and waved the towel and all that stuff, and was clapping. Not knowing and realizing I still had to go to school in Boston, so the Knicks were leaving.
and you were still there.
I took this a little too far, but it was all good. And Larry had come back to me and said, if I wanted my job back, he could get it back and stuff, and it didn't mean no harm. And I was like, you know what, it's okay, man.
So Legend would have got your job back, but you said don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was like, no.
What? Okay, now help me out with this part. You said another ball boy gave you an envelope full of money. That was from DJ. But
no. So when I had my coat stolen, they couldn't figure this out because, it was weird because they never had a specific, like a location for like the ball boys and equipment managers put all their stuff. Yeah. Everybody put all their stuff in the old Boston Garden. They put it in the same room where the players' stuff was. Oh. And it was a security guard watching the room. So it was just really weird.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a cold night in Boston, and I'm going to look for my coat, and they were like, I was like, "Yo, somebody stole my coat." They were like, "Nah." We looked for hours upon hours. It was crazy, and nobody could find my coat, and so it was something that was troublesome, And I was just like, oh, and I actually saw somebody had a coat on during the course of the game because it was a Boston Garden. And I was like, man, somebody got a coat like mine.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Somebody might have gotten that coat, the same coat. I don't know how they got in there because it wasn't no fur coat or leather and all this other stuff. It was just a regular down coat.
Right.
And Dennis Johnson, I think, the next game pulled me to the side and he said, "Yo, here he gave me about $300 or so." Wow. And he said, "Here, get you a coat and stuff." And I was appreciative of DJ about that.
Yeah, DJ and Casey Jones, for back in the day, those were personally my heroes.
Yes.
And Cornbread as well. Those my uncle's favorite player was Cornbread. DJ was my guy. Of course, Legend was my guy, and Casey Jones, one of the greatest coaches ever. That is crazy. But how did you go from Knicks ball boy to Celtics ball boy?
Well, like I said, so they knew that I was going to school up in Boston, and the trainers, Ed Lacerte and Mike Saunders from the Knicks and Ed Lacerte of the Celtics were like, yo, listen, man, why don't we have him work? And the guy, Wayne LeBeau, was really pivotal also in that, because I had gotten to the point where when I was with the Knicks, I would oversee all the different things. So a lot of the times you have NBA teams, that, let's say they play at Madison Square Garden on Thursday and they got another game, let's say Friday or Saturday or something like that, Thursday, and they got another game Friday. What they would ask is that after the game, leave the uniforms and the warm-ups and wash them. And I'm sure they have it in Madison Square Garden. They have these big industrialized washing machines and dryers. So they would just say, hey, look, can you do us a favor? Wash these uniforms and warm-ups, put them in the washer and dryer and all that stuff, fold it back up, put it in the Gatorade bags, take a cab over to their hotel, leave it with the bellman, and that'll be it.
Oh, wow.
And so that was kind of the courtesy. And because I had done it so much in the past, and then they had an experience, I think, that worked well, where they were in New Jersey playing the Nets at the time. And somebody had stolen Larry Bird's jersey from, I don't know how it happened, but somebody had stolen his jersey. Right. And they were in a pinch. And back then, there was a store called Jerry Crosby's that made the jerseys for the Knicks, which was downstairs in the garden. And so I never forget, they had me go to the Jerry Crosby's, get in a cab, go over to the Meadowlands, get the jersey and stuff. And then they sent me back in a cab and stuff. So they gave me money and stuff. But because of those things, they knew who I was. Right. And they were like, you know what? Hey, would you want to work for the Celtics while you're there? Earn some money. I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Right. Was that like a problem back in the day? Because you always hear old stories about players' uniforms, jerseys, shoes getting stolen out of locker rooms. Was that like a huge issue?
It could be. Like, I had something like that happen, and I'd say to me, where it's things can happen. So in my case, the Lakers were playing the Knicks, and I can't remember if they were going to Boston or Philly. And it was once again one of those situations where, late at night, hey, listen, can you do me a favor? Wash this stuff, put it in the bag. And they would have these Gatorade bags with locks and stuff, and then you take it over to their hotel. I did that, and, a lot of the times I would cut corners because it was late at night, and I had to go to school the next day. So what I would do is I would wash the towels from the games along with the uniforms. Like, if I did that, I would wash the uniforms in a separate wash, obviously, but dry everything together. Right. And then once it was over, I just go. Yeah. Well, I did that, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't count all the jerseys. I put the jerseys back in the bag and then locked it up, everything. They go on, I believe, to Boston, like I said, or Philly. And then there's a player that has a jersey that's missing.
Which Laker player didn't have a jersey?
0-0. And guess whose jersey it was?
Parrish?
Magic Johnson.
Don't play with me, Gerald. I should have said, because you said 0-0. That's why I said Parrish. You forgot Magic's jersey?
Magic's jersey. So
what in the world?
I said, oh my God. And so they had thought at first that maybe I stole it or something. I was like, so I went in there and I went into the dryer, and up under all the towels, it was Magic's jersey.
Oh my goodness.
And they were like, yo, I said, I'm sorry. And they were like, it's an honest mistake. And so, I can't remember his name in a long time. Gary Vitti, I think his name is Gary Vitti, the longtime Lakers trainer. It was like, don't worry about it and stuff. They had a number, but I didn't like the sort of interpretation that the announcers had, whereas the perception was that somebody had stolen Magic's jersey, and it was actually a Lakers and Celtics, because I couldn't believe it was a nationally televised game.
Right.
And I got so nervous. And then back then, I had keys to get into the, keys to get into the garden and whatever, anytime at night, just go in.
Right.
And I went back the next day. And it was in there. It was like,
oh, that is crazy. I hope who was it? Was it Pat? Was it Pat O'Brien or Dick Stockton or Chick Hearn talking shit?
It had to be a TNT game. It probably was it was a TNT game. So they had said that and mentioned that, while Magic was wearing a 00 or something like that, he had his jersey stolen in New York. And wow. I was like, no. And I took it and gave it back. And Gary Vitti and them were like, no worries and stuff. Because, a game would end back then. It was a nationally televised game in about 11, 12. And then you're doing laundry at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting out and I got to go to school the next day. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to draw all this stuff together. And I just didn't. I forgot to even count how many jerseys I had in there. And of all people, it had to be Magic's jersey.
Right, the greatest point guard ever. That is ill. Okay, yeah. That is crazy. And you were in high school at this point.
Yeah, I was in high school at that time. Yeah.
That is crazy, Gerald. That's such a cool story. What kind of student were you?
Hey, good student, man. Had a really good student. My mom didn't play that. She did not play that at all. And I had a lot of responsibility. I think. At that point, going to high school, as the Knicks started to get better and better, and, they turned the corner when Rick Pitino got there. And so when Coach Pitino was there, they became a team that everybody was seeing and talking about. And so at that point, I was getting seen on television. And so unbeknownst to me, some of the students in school and then the teachers, I had a lot of leeway, if you will.
Nice.
And if I needed to come into school late, it was no problem. Right. Hey, whatever.
They know what you did.
And I took care of a lot of teachers and security guards and stuff, school safety officers with tickets.
Nice.
Yes.
How much access did you have to tickets?
Huh?
How much access did you have to tickets?
What's interesting? It was the players, and that's why I said that, I just had a great experience. And, I often say, some of the experiences that I had were just based upon just treating people like just regular people, and, between Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Mark Jackson, Johnny Newman, Rod Strickland, these guys were like brothers to me. So, asking those guys in advance, could I have an extra ticket or two? It was no problem. I don't know if Patrick ever gave up any tickets, but Gerald Wilkins constantly would give up his tickets. And, he just had one rule. It was like, who are you sitting next to, whoever I had coming at that time as his then wife or whatever. He wanted to know who I had sitting there. Mm-hmm. So, and then also if there's other tickets or something like that I needed, I would just always ask in advance.
Man, that is beautiful. I'm so glad that they looked out for you like that. I could see them doing that. So then you do that. And you went to school in Boston. What did you want to do? What did you want to be?
You know what? I wanted to play basketball, but I wanted the glitz and the glamour. I didn't want to put the hard work in.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. So that was the issue there. But it was fun, man. And I think just figuring it out and utilizing the contacts and stuff that I had made. And, to this day, I still stay in contact with Patrick and Charles Oakley and Mark, Rod Strickland, Johnny Newman. Wow. Most of the guys and stuff like that were very, very influential, and I always say that, being a young man, black and brown, and seeing black and brown people and stuff like that, I was brought into an environment that, again, it was a brotherhood and stuff. And I really, really appreciate those guys, as well as a lot of the people that worked at the Garden as well.
No doubt. And I remember Johnny Newman. To me, I just remember him as a Hornet. I don't even remember him as a Knick. I just remember him as a Charlotte Hornet. Man. Yeah, because I had his car.
Yeah, he was a Knick, and actually I think it was after his success with the Knicks and mainly with Pitino really set him up to get the big payday with the Hornets.
Okay, that's what it's about. You proved yourself somewhere else, and somebody another team is going to pay you. And since you brought up the Vampire, aka Rick Pitino, what happened with him in New York? Like, that was his dream job. It came and went so fast. What happened?
I think really, at that point, and Coach Pitino has really talked about it, it was, you could clearly see that there was a power struggle between him, the then GM, President Al Bianchi, Okay. You know, it wasn't really a good fit. And at that time, you know, Coach Pitino wanted to prove himself. And you got to remember, he was this guy that was kind of like this whiz kid who, young guy, had all this success. He's from New York, has the success at Providence, and really came in with this kind of mindset that, you know, again, he's going to change the culture and translate his college game of shooting a lot of threes, which is now, I said back then, you know, it was ahead of his time, you know, where the way he utilized the three-point shot, you know, and how you see it in the NBA now, he was kind of really one of the main ones of utilizing that three-point shot. I know the up-tempo stuff, you know, we know about from Doug Moe, the late Doug Moe and the Denver Nuggets, but 7 seconds or less. But I'm talking about really utilizing that three-point shot where guys are on a break. Instead of cutting to the basket, they're flaring out to the three-point line. Coach Pitino was really influential in that. And I think when that sort of butted heads with management, he had an opportunity with a nice payday thrown at him to coach University of Kentucky, you know, and it was challenging. You know, he had some challenges and stuff like that. And just, you know, going from that and then from there goes to Boston. And he had told me the story about Boston. He said he wanted $50 million, and they were like, he just threw out a number thinking that they weren't going to match it. And they said, okay, and they gave him the money.
But, he drafted all his players.
And I think really he knew that, honestly, finding his niche and his calling and understanding that his style of basketball and what he demanded from his players was more impactful on the college level than it is in the pros. And that really is proven from the success he's had at, you know, Louisville as well as Iona, and now incredible success he's having at St. John's.
It's ridiculous. And I know they beat UConn, so they won the Big East championship, didn't they?
Yeah, they won it, and the interesting thing is the first time in St. John's history that they've won the conference regular season, they won the conference tournament championship, as well as the regular season title 2 years in a row. And I mean, you know, the Big East is not what it used to be, you know, clearly,
of course.
But you know, just obviously the changing of the times and stuff like that with college sports in general. But it's a heck of an accomplishment to really come in and be able to have that much success in such a short period of time.
No doubt. I know Coach Hurley he probably killed one of his players. Didn't nobody say nothing. That dude's probably so mad. Okay, so I got to, so moving forward in the Rick Pitino thing, you know, with us Celtic fans, you know to us, what you call it, Bird's not walking through that door. Mikhail's not walking there. That right there was one of the coldest lines, but that right there was the beginning of, you're about to get up out of here, dog. You're not going to be in Boston.
And he knew that. I think he knew the handwriting was on the wall.
He did. That's why he said that. Okay, so did you graduate from that school that you went to in Boston?
Actually, no. I went down and played. I was going down to play basketball at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, but I didn't play at all and stuff. Had an injury and stuff, and then at that time, you know, I didn't have the desire to work as much as it required. So just finished up as a student.
Okay, so you graduated from there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was awesome. And did you graduate in journalism? What did you graduate with?
It was interesting. It was in mass communications. So,
there it is. Yep.
You know, I said, hey, I didn't even realize that I was setting myself up to be able to run my mouth and get paid for it.
No doubt. So you get out of school, and I know you started the BottomLine Sports Show. Awesome. One of the best basketball radio shows, podcasts ever. You're more than welcome, sir. I know you started that first. Where did you start that? Did you start that in New York? How did that go?
Well, you know what? It was interesting because when I got out of school, I was really just trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do in that space. And the unique thing is that when I got out, I got into the educational field as an educational counselor. And at the same time, we gotten this bug of coaching, and I started coaching like 10-year-old kids and following them up to the point where they were starting to get ready for high school, whatever. And then I connected with a major AAU program, a grassroots basketball program in New York City called the New York Ravens. That was on that level with the, you know, Gauchos, New York Gauchos and Riverside Church. And so coaching those young men and seeing the college coaches that we were in the presence of and going all these prestigious tournaments, and we were funded by Adidas. So that amazing run, which led to I had the fortunes of being a mentor of a young man who actually basically came up through the program and really nurtured, got him into boarding school, got his academics together, and he went and played for Coach Pitino.
Nice.
Yeah, he played 3 years, and then he had to leave. You know, he had to leave and go to the NBA, and he was a lottery pick of the Sacramento Kings and played, I believe, like 10 or 11 years in the NBA. And so after that,
you gotta say his name. Who is it? We know who this is. Who is this?
Oh, Francisco Garcia.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay, congratulations.
Sacramento Kings, and then I believe he was with Houston for a while.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So between him, and then after that, it was being a dad, having kids and stuff, and it just became something where I think my ex-wife was like, "Hey, why don't you start a sports show?" Because buddies of mine moved out to the suburbs in Jersey, and it was like, man, we get so tired of these announcers. They don't even talk about certain things that we'd be interested in listening to. And it really clicked at that point when she said, you know, hey, why don't you start a show? And at that point, you know, being that I had all the connections still from the players that I had met, from Kevin Johnson of then of the Phoenix Suns to, you know, Mark and all the Knicks, to college coaches that were, you know, again, develop relationships with and stuff. And the next thing you know, the Bottom Line Sports Show was born, and it became sort of an obsession where we had gotten to the point where, you know, a weekly show, we were getting the same type of talent that ESPN was getting on their platform.
What platform were you on? Where were you on?
You know, we were on a platform called Blog Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Yeah. So we were getting all these guys, and you know, it just got to a point where it was growing, where you know, we got Colin Kaepernick while he was in, you know, getting ready for the draft.
Whoa.
Got Colin Kaepernick before he got ready for the draft.
Right.
And actually, you know, that's how I ended up meeting, you know, Penny Hardaway. And so Penny came on board. You know, next thing you know, we had Dwight Howard on there, Nas, so Chris Rock. So it was just countless. And in fact, on the YouTube channel that I have now, and I had it, you know, put it to the side and stuff because of the stuff with Sirius XM. But the YouTube channel is youtube.com/the BottomLine Sports Show. B as in boy, LINE Sports Show. Nice. You'll see a lot of the history of the Bottom Line Sports Show, from countless stars, Kevin Hart, all these people that came on that platform and really was with us. And it just really grew to the point, like I said before, Mike Hill, who's now with Fox Sports. It's like, man, y'all getting the same type of guests we getting.
Wow, that is. How did you get Esco? You had Esco on your show?
Yeah, man. We had Escobar, man, right before it was one of his albums. He came out, and you know, he came on the show. It was love, man, and we had a great time with him. Chris Rock just ran into it. It just happened so fast. We happened getting so many guests.
That's what's up.
That from so many different backgrounds. And then, like I said before, the best one of them all, well, I shouldn't say that, but one that just turned into this unique relationship and friendship to this day was with Penny. You know, Penny had been off the grid for so long.
Right.
And, you know, just really just, again, you know, underground with the injury and really just took a hit because of the way his career ended.
Right.
And, you know, he came on the show, and it was like, man, he had such a great time. And he was like, yo, I want to be a part of this.
Oh my
God. Yeah, you know, and actually we had made the announcement that he wanted to come back and play for the Miami Heat when LeBron went to Miami. So it was a lot of things, and he had a segment. So once Penny and Oak and you know, these guys, Cato June, football player, won a Super Bowl with the Colts, they got on board. It became so many guys wanting to come on there. Sugar Ray Leonard, boxers, from boxers to entertainers to actors, everybody is on.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. Okay, so you do that, you blow up with that. And then does that lead directly to Bottom Line Sports Show on Sirius XM?
Yes, that's correct. So the thing about it was it just got to the point where I started pitching it to Sirius XM, and it was a gentleman, Brian Hamilton. And I would send Brian a email pretty much every week, once a week, of who we were having on this show. So he would start to see exactly who we were having on the show. And then it took some time, you know, and we had some conversations, and obviously talking to the powers that be. And then when we had the sit down with them, my buddies and I flew Penny up. We flew Penny up to New York, and he came to the meeting that we had with Sirius XM. Wow. And then at that point, we still had to wait a little time. And then this was right on the cusp of them getting ready to start the NBA channel.
Oh my goodness! So you basically, BottomLine Sports Show has been on Sirius since the NBA channel was birthed?
Yes, before. Yep.
Wow. And when you break down like how the show started and your guests and all that, everything was organic, wasn't it? Like nothing was forced.
No. Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said on the YouTube channel, and it tells the history. You know, we got some. I'm gonna go ahead and got some collections of the videos, but it's really in its essence. I mean, I remember former center fielder for the Minnesota Twins, the great Torrey Hunter, just was on there and just was talking one time, and he was just like, "Hey, man, my father's battling a crack addiction and stuff," and it was like, wow, you know, and it was just organic conversations. And I think what came out about that show and why it was so well received amongst football players, basketball players, and athletes and entertainers in general, it's just that we had conversations. So a lot of the time these guys were doing so many great things in their communities with their charitable endeavors that a lot of the times, even though they didn't want it to be known, I always was compelled to really allow people to know that they were just more than an athlete. So it was important to really just make sure we acknowledge them. And we just had just very genuine, authentic conversations of some of the greatest people and athletes and ever played a game.
That's awesome. Okay, so how did and I'm so glad I'm talking to you too, because I had no idea. Remember you said BottomLine was on Sirius for 13 years. Am I correct?
15
years. Oh, I'm not trying to short you 2 years.
No.
And you were there before NBA radio.
Right.
That is outstanding. So what channel were you on back before NBA radio?
They had a channel called Sports Zone.
Okay. Yes. And that's where you were there. Wow.
Yeah.
So you were one of the introductory shows on NBA radio.
Correct.
What was your time slot then?
It was Saturdays and Sundays. So we were always Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. You know, a lot of people said we should have been 5 days a week, but
definitely. Wow.
Yeah.
Who was your host back when you first started?
It was a guy, a friend of mine back then, Howie C, that was on there and stuff. And Howie and I and then Howie transitioned out, and then Rick Mahorn came on and stuff. And Rick and I were there obviously for quite some time.
Right. How many years were y'all two together?
Man, I think Rick and I might have done 7, 8, somewhere between 7 and 9 years. I don't know.
Wow, yeah. That is outstanding. So, and that's the thing that frustrates me. The show was unlike anything else on NBA radio and Sirius. To be honest, only thing that was similar to it was Rock the Bells Radio, like the radio shows that they would have on there, Roxanne Shante. That's the only thing that was similar to what you all did. What was the issue? Because the one thing that you didn't lack was listeners, callers. You guys had that. What was the issue? Why did they end the show?
Budgetary reasons. And I mean, the biggest thing is, I think I would drive myself crazy if I tried to figure out, why, whatever. But it was a great run. It's 15 years.
No doubt.
A lot of people, a lot of shows don't get that opportunity.
Right.
And, we're going to do something else, and Rick and I still do it on YouTube. We moved it from Tuesday nights because now the season, the Pistons have games on Tuesday nights and stuff, but we're mostly on we've been primarily on Tuesday nights, but we've been doing the last couple of weeks on Wednesdays.
Oh, yes, sir.
And it's still the same concept, still fun. I mean, Rick is unfiltered, so
nice.
We're still going to do that, but I choose rather to look ahead than opposed to look back, because you just obviously they said budgetary reasons, and I respect that. It was good, and so we still do some stuff from here from time to time. Right. But you know, we'll be all right. We're definitely gonna be all right.
Y'all will 100% be all right, and I want to know. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, and I cannot. I'm so glad that y'all are still doing it. I will 100% be tuning in when I'm at work because I work second shift, so I will be at work. As long as it's not a big time game on, I'm gonna be listening to y'all. I want to ask this last question with Sirius.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. You got it. Wait a minute. You can still tune in and check us out on YouTube.
That's what I'm saying. You know what? And I can do both.
Yeah, you gotta check us out. Yep. Hey, we just had last week, man, Dana Barrows.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we had Dana Barrows. Yes.
Celtics.
Yeah, Massachusetts native.
Yes, sir.
And then the week before that, I believe we had Derek Coleman, man.
Oh, DC was on what?
Yeah, wow. DC was on there. So you could go back and listen to the shows. It's on the BottomLineSportsShow.com. So instead of bottom line, it's BLINE Sports Show on YouTube. Awesome. And yeah, we're gonna have this upcoming week. We're gonna have Gus Johnson.
Oh yeah,
longtime announcer. And then the week after that, we got longtime official, college basketball official. Great Teddy Valentine is gonna be on this show. So we got a lot of things coming, man, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and we still have a lot of fun. So definitely continue support, man.
100% I will do that because I'll just cut y'all on and listen to y'all and just have the game on no sound. Like that.
Absolutely.
That's how I'm going to do that because I want to hear y'all. And Gus Johnson.
But you can also check it out even when you have time, you know, either going to work or whatever, because I tell you this, Rick is something else, man, especially when Bam Adebayo got that 83 or so.
Oh my goodness.
Rick was like this. I said, yo, Rick, if you were playing, he was saying, you know what I would have did. Rick lets it be known. Yeah. So we have a lot of fun, man.
He would have put Bam on his ass. Oh my goodness. And Gus Johnson is one of the best announcers ever to do any type of sport. So I will be tuning in, and before you leave today, we're gonna put that back out there. All right, so that I am so glad to get that catch up with you, brother, because like I said, I admire you. I've been a fan of yours for a while, ever since I remember taking my son, who's graduated from high school years ago, but taking him to it was like this not an internship, but it was down at the St. Louis Science Center. Awesome program they had, but it was only on Saturday mornings. So I didn't like doing it because I worked late Friday night, but I would get up, take him, and then I would get to listen to y'all. So it was really cool. Like every Saturday was a thing. All right. So since you brought it up, I wanna get into this, and I want to ask about Memphis Tigers with your boys team. 83 points. Bam Adebayo puts himself above Kobe. He is number 2 all time in the scoring. Scoring in one game, single game. Your thoughts, honest thoughts. Give it to me.
You know, congratulations to him, right? You know, to be able to do that. However,
I knew it was I could see it in your eyes. I knew it was something else. Go ahead, Gerald.
You know, the things they were doing, I think watered down the 83, like fouling intentionally so they could get the ball back. You know, it just, you know, it was 2 things that I took away from the 83. That was one of them. And then also, he scored 83 points in essentially 46, 47 minutes. Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in 48 minutes, 47, 48 minutes.
Right.
So it just lets you see exactly the greatness of Wilt. And let's be clear, Wilt was on that list in terms of multiple. He was on there at least twice. And every time we hear things about records being broken or passed, this person being passed, his name is always brought up. And I think that clearly, you know, that's been one of the premises behind, you know, Rick and I were doing the show. It's like, hey man, there's so many great players out here. Let's not forget about these all-time greats. So I'm always you know, I'm always, you know, interested and really pleased that when things like this occur, we can hear about guys like Wilt Chamberlain. And I just look at the fact is that the flow of the game, if he would have got that 83 in the flow of the game and it wouldn't have taken these little gimmicks and stuff, you know, I would have said, hey, that was nice. But it was crazy, and I'm shocked and surprised by that. So that's the thing where, it watered it down a little for me.
Okay, but here goes the thing. Go back to this, because you said little gimmicks, they fouled him. It's not his fault that the Wizards didn't take him serious, and then they wanted to play 3-on-1 and then constantly foul him late in the game. That's not his fault. The man had 70 points, I think, in the third, didn't he?
Yeah, but he had 43 free throw attempts. I was like,
made 36 of them. Yep. But that's not his fault, Gerald.
But you know what? And that was something that Rick and I had talked about. Like, the Wizards should be ashamed of themselves, because, you can't let somebody get out there and do what he did on them. And I mean, it just really, I think, honestly, the Wizards might need to go back and really rethink of changing their name once again, because, again, what's associated with them has been nothing but failure, and it's unfortunate. I mean, how could you feel proud to be a Washington Wizards fan, knowing that obviously the whole situation with Bradley Beal and John Wall, the injuries that have occurred, being in a space where now you give up 83 points to Bam Adebayo and the Miami Heat. So you're right. Obviously, I blame the Wizards. Lack of defense, and looks like they're always trying to tank. And then I also got to give a little blame to Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat.
Which is what? Because he kept them in? Tell me
that. Well, no, not even that, but it was just the fact is they were fouling. Like when Adebayo missed a shot or something like that, they were like, foul, 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 so they could get the ball back. And so they
Miami was doing that. Yeah, they were. Yeah,
to get more possessions for opportunities for Bam. So that's why I said, if you're able to get that in the Florida game, kind of like what Kobe did, okay, that really stands out.
Right.
But that right there, I'm like,
I 100% get that part, and I love how Spoelstra said. I apologize to absolutely no one. I love that from him. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm watching the game. And I had the Celtics OKC game on, but then that's happening. So of course my other device, and I'm at work. My other device, I went right to that Miami Washington game, and I'm like, okay, cool. He's gonna catch up to Kobe. Okay, well he's probably gonna come out the game. He's not gonna. Oh my god! And I'm not gonna lie, Gerald. When he went over Kobe, I was just like, oh, he might catch some hell tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I just knew it instantly. And I get the faction of people that say, well, what's the controversy? What's the big deal? He's not the number one. It's still Wilt. He's just over Kobe. But then I get the other group of people that were like, okay, this was kind of funky. It was a lot of Babbage that was into this, and why'd he put himself over Kobe? And Kobe's supposed to be his favorite player. Because I'm not gonna lie, if I'm and it kind of depends on the individual, but if I'm in the Garden and I'm rocking, it's the playoffs, and I'm beating the Celtics' ass, and I got a chance to go over GOAT, and I can get 65 and go over his 63, I don't know if I'll do it. I don't know. I might be too tired. I might come out. It's just, but I get why he went for it, because what would Kobe Bean Bryant? Bean would tell him, you better do that.
Yeah, you got to do it. That's the spirit of the game. And I mean, look, I just, like I said before, the thing is I take away from that is, it just really lends to the fact is how great Wilt Chamberlain was.
You ain't lying.
You score 48 points. Excuse me, you score 100 points in a 48-minute game. Guys are getting 80, 83, and you're talking about the amount and what skill you have to have, and be in that space. I mean, I don't think it's possible. You'd never say never, but I think clearly. It just doesn't lend to the fact is that we will see a player eclipse 100. No. Like, I don't know if he could have got to 90. Maybe he could have got to 90 or so, but I don't think he could have got to 100.
I don't think he even could have got to 90. That man looked pooped. Like, he looked spent. He looked done. And the thing and like you said, with the 100 points with Wilt, I don't think we'll ever see that, because Wilt was Goliath. No one was even close to his size or stature. The only person that was as good as him, and definitely wasn't offensively, was Russell. That was it. And Russell wasn't even close to his height. Yeah. So that's another reason why he did it. And every time down the floor, who got the ball? Wilt. They just was passing it to Wilt. So nobody overdo that. Okay, next subject, and this is big time to me, and I'm not going to front. I remember y'all talking about this on BottomLine, and I would love your opinion on it. JT is back, and he's back with the Celtics. He did not want to. What up? He did not want to waste a year. a season. He sees his team is good. What say you, sir, on him coming back so soon after the Achilles tear?
You know, what's interesting is that right after it was announced that he was going to come back, Rick and I recently had, we call him Brad, a.k.a. one of the Celtic legends, Cedric Cornbread Maxwell.
Cornbread.
And Brad was saying, man, we just recently had him on. It's still up there. But Brad was saying that, you know, he's going to need at least 20 games to really get his, if you will, legs under him.
Yep.
And, you know, I think Dana was also saying, you know, really just take it easy and make sure that he doesn't try to overextend himself, because, you know, a lot of the times your mind will tell you one thing and your body will tell you another.
Got that right.
But look, him coming back and he's able to play, I think from all indications, he got the surgery right the next day, as opposed to waiting and having the swelling, you know, subside and then having the surgery. That was a game changer. So, you know, his success might really open up a door where guys will be more inclined to have that Achilles injury repaired sooner rather than later.
Right.
But I had said before, when he comes back and in the role he's in, and he's going to have that 20 games, I think that it clearly now is a Eastern Conference that is Detroit, Boston, and everybody else. Right. You know, I would say the Knicks maybe a third, but it's really Detroit and Boston that would, for me, right there with one another.
You put Detroit over your New York Knickerbockers.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. Now, see, and I get that, right? And I get that. And then maybe the reason why you're doing it is how Detroit has owned y'all this regular season?
I think also, too, yeah. And I think clearly, you know, they've been very dominant, you know, very dominant. And you're still looking at a team. I mean, the last time they beat the Knicks, they didn't have, you know, Isaiah Stewart. They didn't have Jalen Durant. And these guys have really, again, continued to grow right before our eyes. Right. And then adding guys like a Duncan Robinson and the success they had, you know, I clearly look at them and say defensively as well as offensively, they're going to pose matchup problems for the New York Knicks, because they can match them if they're in their physicality. Offensively, Cade Cunningham, I believe, really is having an MVP type of season and should be the MVP. And Jalen Durant is an all-star and really has come into his own. So they match the Knicks in terms of offensively, and I think defensively they can really pose a lot of problems for them. So hands down, I really believe that, you know, again, I thought the Knicks needed another scorer just to really solidify that team in terms of, again, adding more scorer, because, again, that's what you need in terms of being able to go deep in the playoffs. And I don't see that with them. I just think the chemistry and the run that the Pistons have been on, it warrants them to be the #1 seed in the East.
And you think Cade is the MVP over Jaylen Brown?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think clearly. And the only reason why I say that is because, you know, and it's not a knock against Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown, for all intents and purposes, I think people started to realize and value him even more so without Jason Tatum. I think it's a lot of times he had been taken for granted because Jason Tatum was there. And it was always that, you know, well, he's only good because of Jason Tatum. Well, you know, when Tatum was out and it's been out, he was really on full display, and he was that guy. And the thing I love about the Celtics, look, they're a team that I've always said that when you win a championship, you know how to manage a season. You know how to be able to manage the season. Don't get too high when you have certain victories. Don't get too low when you have certain losing streaks, whatever. And you know how to make sure you don't let a 3 to 4 game losing streak turn into 10 to 12. Great teams know how to nip it in the bud and really move forward and know when it's go time. And that's what you see from the Celtics. And we're starting to see from the Pistons in terms of, look, they had a recent 4-game losing streak. It went by the wayside. And next thing you know, they're right back clicking on all cylinders. So, you know, Jaylen Brown has really deserved to be that MVP. But I give the little nod and the edge just simply because from the start till now, the Detroit Pistons and Cade Cunningham has been perhaps the most consistent and the impact he's had on this team.
I get it, and I get your love for the Pistons, but I'm not gonna lie. When you lose to Brooklyn and those teams that they lost to in that 4-game stretch, it made me lose a lot of respect for Detroit. And this is how I look at Detroit and New York, right? I look at Detroit and New York like Boston and New York last year. We owned y'all in the regular season, and look what happened in the playoffs. I think it'll be the same freaking thing. It'll be Detroit owns New York in the regular season. The playoffs come, it's going to be a totally different animal. But I totally, you got to help me out with this offensively, because I don't see Detroit staying on New York's level when it comes to offense, because defense, Detroit has it. But offense, I think the only person that can create their own shot is Cade and maybe Karis LeVert. That's about it. Like, New York has scores. Even Calderon coming off the bench, I'll take his scoring. I mean, I think New York, like, y'all, and Amin Al Hassan has said this. I don't like to give him too much props, but he has literally said New York is coming out the East, and even though they looked horrible on that West Coast trip, I gotta tend to go with them. I agree with that.
I think, look, the league would love to have the Knicks come out of the East because it's a major market. You have them being relevant, and i.e. that's going to really translate into a lot of eyeballs on, having a major market in the NBA Finals. That is sort of, again, what you want, especially with this new TV deal with NBC, Amazon, and all those network partners. I just look at the Knicks and say, do you have guaranteed scores, right? Like proven scores that you can sit back and say, crunch time, they can go to this person and they're going to get a bucket. Outside of Jalen Brunson, I don't see that. And that's no disrespect or slight on Mikal Bridges. I think Karl Anthony Towns is pretty much that second tier shooter and scorer. But other guys like Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, even Josh Hart, I don't see these guys being sort of on the level of, say, okay, you know what Boston has, right? What Boston can throw out, Tatum, Brown, Pritchard. Now you got Vucevic when he comes back. It's a system that guys could be placed in the right situation and be able to hit down and knock down open shots. Derek White. So I just don't see that with them. And what really I like about the Pistons, if you will, their physicality and their toughness. So I think last year, keep in mind, when the Knicks beat them in 6 games last year, Isaiah Stewart wasn't a part of that. So you have,
he didn't play at all in that series.
I think he did. He wasn't a part of that.
Wow.
So you add him to that mix, and then you're adding in people like a Duncan Robinson. You add in a Karis LeVert. You add in Tobias Harris and stuff, guys that I think clearly Cade Cunningham is the straw that stirs the drink, for the Pistons, but allow those guys to play in the roles that they're most comfortable. And that's the biggest thing that it will come down to: who is able to execute and get their guys in the comfortable positions to hit shots. I think it's a lot of pressure on the Knicks. Look, I've been screaming since the start of the season that the Knicks should have really tried to figure out a way, and from what I understand, they sort of backdoor trying to find out if they could get him. But I thought LeBron would have been ideal to have another bona fide proven guy and a scorer that defenses will have to really pay attention to. I'm not really sold on the Knicks, but again, that's why we have the playoffs.
Exactly. And I think the whole LeBron of it all, I think he could end up once the Fakers lose again this year, and then they start paying. That's their name. This ain't the 80s. This ain't Showtime. It's the Fakers. What is it? Once and then they go into panic mode, and then he goes into, I need to go somewhere I can win. If it's not Cleveland, I see him going to y'all. I just really see him going to New York, because that's another major market. He loves being in major markets. He loves being the focal point. He would be the focal point. I just wonder if the Knicks want to give up. They won't even have to give up much, because he'll be a free agent. Make that roster spot, give him the money he wants, and are y'all okay with a lot of the talk going to be about him instead of y'all? That's the only thing I think.
Well, I think clearly from what I heard from my sources, that the way you look at a lot of the things that Cleveland has done, in terms of trading Darius Garland, obviously there's been some rumors that Donovan Mitchell is looking to leave. And I think clearly what has happened now, from what my sources have told me, that Adidas is going to really step in and really offset whatever money he would lose by going to another team and losing that sort of 5th-year option to get that Supermax money.
Oh, wow.
Adidas would really offset that. And now with James Harden and, James Harden there, there's been talk that LeBron would come back, and look, that would be the storybook ending, right? To go back where it all started,
right?
And look, Cleveland, they would sort of ride that wave, and like you said before, it seems like the handwriting is already on the wall that Donovan Mitchell will not sign a long-term deal with that, and look for them to move him and LeBron return. And now you have a backcourt of LeBron and James Harden.
Wow. And Donovan would go where he wants to go back home. He'll go to New York.
Well, I don't even think it'll be New York. I think it would go somewhere else. I mean, I don't know specifically where. I didn't hear that, but what I've heard is that, he's not really worried about leaving that fifth year on the table. So signing a 4-year deal and letting it be known that he's not going to sign back with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And wherever he goes, Adidas will make up the offset the money that he would lose in that 1 year.
Right.
But at the same time, he will now, be able to go and open up the door for LeBron to be there with James Harden.
That's awesome. Okay. And I definitely trust your sources because you are plugged in. All right, so help me out with this team, man, because I really think, I'm not going to lie, man, I think it's coaching. Why are the Minnesota Timberwolves so basic and just not good? They lost again today to OKC. They beat up Golden State teams, so that don't really mean nothing. I don't understand why this team, they have a good roster. I know Randall is soft at times, but man, what is wrong with this Minnesota Timberwolves team, bro? Help me out.
I think there's just matchups, and you look at the Western Conference, that is what we're going to witness in the playoffs, right? Like if you look at the matchups where OKC, is a tough matchup for Denver, right? But then OKC struggles with San Antonio, right? So when I look at Minnesota, even then, it's still trying to figure things out. I still believe that, they pulled the plug maybe a little too soon with trading Karl Anthony Towns and sending him and getting Julius Randle. Yeah, they went back to the Western Conference Finals, but I think still it's just matchups for them, just a team that, again, from what they're able to do from an offensive standpoint and defensively, and obviously the shortcomings of Rudy Gobert, it's really going to come down to matchups for them. And they're not alone in that Western Conference. Let me tell you something. Those matchups are really, really going to dictate a lot. And like, as much as people want to sit up and say, yeah, let's pencil in OKC to get back to the NBA Finals, I don't think that is a fair assessment to make and statement to make, because they're going to struggle. Like if they meet up with San Antonio, I give San Antonio a puncher's chance simply because they mirror each other. I know we talked about the Minnesota Timberwolves, but when you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Spurs, they mirror each other. And the only difference is that both of them defend. But if you look at the San Antonio Spurs, they have guys that can create their shots.
Yes, they can.
And are able to be effective scorers on that wing. Whereas Oklahoma City don't have that. And Luke Dort, among others, DiVincenzo and all those guys, where you're having Castle, Harper, Fox,
Vassell.
All those guys. Vassell, all those guys to throw in there. Keldon Johnson. You have a lot of guys in there that can pose a lot of problems for the, and that's why they sort of match up so well. And Sam Presti had said that, that was sort of the mindset of when they took from the San Antonio Spurs and really developed what they have in Oklahoma City. So it's going to be a bloodbath, but I think Minnesota is still trying to figure out, when you have those certain matchups. Julius Randle looks incredible, but it's still trying to figure who they out, and sometimes those matchups really will dictate how far they'll go.
And you're 100% correct. Is just the thing that frustrates me so much with Minnesota. Two things that they do damn near every game they lose. They do this. They have slow starts, and they take entirely too many threes. Like, you're Anthony Edwards, you're Ant-Man. You can jump through the roof, but yet you and JT and my boy Tatum does the same thing. It makes me upset, and the whole city of St. Louis don't like it. Settles for these little pretty threes that do not drop. That's why we lost to y'all last year in the playoffs, because we forced threes that we should not be taking. Minnesota does the same thing, and I look at Chris Finch. I just think Chris Finch might be above his depth. I think he's a good G League coach. He's a good, he'll probably be a great college coach. I just think he's above his depth, because when you always start off slow and you always shoot yourself out of games. To me, that's coaching. I don't know. Am I tripping?
No, I mean, no, I think that's the biggest thing. And look, I said the same thing a couple years back when I think the Celtics were playing the Miami Heat, and just how much they relied so much on the three. And it's interesting that, you know, when you get in the playoffs, you just don't really change who you are. And it's like, okay, well, you have success, so now you just kind of take the good with the bad. I don't subscribe to that theory. You know, you're right with Anthony Edwards. Would love to see him attack and really be a little bit more, you know, aggressive. It's the same thing with Jaden McDaniel and having the size and stuff like that. And just again, but I don't see teams, you know, you know, when I look at the league, you know, we've moved so far away from giving a guy on the ball on the block and letting him operate till now. Look, we got a 7'4" guy that plays out on the perimeter, and Victor Wembanyama. So those days are gone, and it's a lost art of being able to throw the ball down on the block and then allowing the guy to really, again, utilize his size and take high percentage shots that closer to the basket.
But Brown was doing it last night against them Nuggets. I was shocked at how many times he got on that block. Go ahead, dude. Like, he was straight doing it, taking Christian Braun to the hoop. So I got to give him props for that. He was doing that. All right, help me out, man. Let's do college real quick before we get up out of here, because this man has been gracious enough with his time today. What happened with the with your boys Memphis Tigers? And I remember, and I want to bring this up because your post that you had on IG was very telling. You said the team straight quits on Penny. What happened? What was that?
Well, you know, and Penny, and look, let me be clear, man. I, you know, love Penny. He's like a brother. And make no mistakes, he knows it wasn't a good team put together. And it really had said this and admitted that, you know, them waiting on a young man, Dame Danger, who NCAA didn't clear him until the day before the NBA draft. They tried to wait on PJ Haggerty, was player of the year last year. He decided to go to Kansas State. And so he took the best available players within the portal. And the biggest thing is that these kids had talent, but just really wouldn't commit themselves to really, again, coming together as a team. I mean, unfortunately, it's a combination of that, you know, and on top of that, being able to schedule the way they schedule. Because think about it this way. Miami of Ohio won 31 games. Everybody was saying Miami, Ohio, all this stuff. They lose one game, and they're logically they're pretty much going to be a double-digit seed.
Lost to my UMass Minutemen.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the thing is that we are not understanding, and I say we, I said, you know, certain fans are not understanding the landscape of college basketball. What the NIL and these power conferences have done, they have eliminated Cinderella. So there's no room for Cinderella if she is not in the Power 4, Power 5 conferences. And when I look at Memphis, yeah, they were terrible, but you have to schedule that way in order to get a top seed. He scheduled UConn in the Maui Invitational. He scheduled a bunch of teams last year in order for his team to get a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. And it's just unfortunate that that's what you have to do, because if you don't, you can end up like a Miami of Ohio. And look, there was no commitment from the guys. They tried. But, you know, it caught up to them, and they just couldn't play. And I thought it was just atrocious by this part of the fan base in Memphis that was been calling for him to be fired and saying, you know what, it's been entirely too long there. I think he stayed there too long, because in his 8-year tenure that he's been there, he has basically gone through having the #1 recruiting class, okay, which I think the NCAA is still upset about. That's why they had all these sort of investigations. Clearly, you don't want a mid-major, small market franchise or college getting and taking away from the blue bloods, i.e., North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and so forth. But then also, too, the game of college basketball changed. He went from in a conference where you had Cincinnati, you had Houston. It went from maybe a 2-bid league to a 1-big league. And then on top of that, in that 8-year span, last but not least, they went from they went to an NIL. So now gone are guys going to schools because of the coach and wanting to get their games better. Guys are going to get the best check and try to maximize their earnings potentials. So I'm not mad at any of that, but I think clearly, there's a fashion of Memphis Tiger fans that don't realize these things have transpired. And at the same time, they really believe that they are a lot better than what they are. And unfortunately, like I just said, I don't think we're going to see a Cinderella will be perhaps Vanderbilt, right? And Vanderbilt will be a Cinderella team if they get to the Final Four. Yeah. And Vanderbilt is in the SEC. Yeah. So,
playing Arkansas today. I wonder who won.
Yeah. So, I mean, that has really changed the landscape. But I told him, I spoke to him about 3 days ago. And I told him, I said, you will be appreciated when you go, because they have this whole dynamic of these fashion of fans thinking that fire him and they're going to bring in this coach. Any coach that's there that has success, they're going to be on the next thing smoking to get out of there to a Power 4, Power 5 conference to get a better payday. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but I stand by it. They quit on him. And it was just self-evident at the end of the day. It was a very, very tough season, but he's going to get it together. And he's really fueled with hunger and desire to start early once that portal open up and really get the right kids in there, and they'll bounce back.
Gerald, I 100% believe they will. And those, a lot of Memphis folks, they probably got delusions of grandeur. You go from Coach Cal and you went to the dang championship game. You should have won it. I'm still mad that Derrick Rose didn't get that championship, punk-ass KU. But then Mario Chalmers with that shot. So you go from that, you have some down years, and then you get Penny. And then Penny brings instant gravitas to the team, and you win some games. So I think they got delusions of grandeur with those teams. But talk about college real quick. So you really think, you're probably right, especially with NIL, we're not going to see mid-majors make a run this year in this tournament, huh?
No, unfortunately not. I think, look, the way it's set up now, the best talented players are going to wherever the money's at, right? So you can have guys like, remember, a few years back, Oakland University beat Kentucky, which led to Calipari's, leaving Kentucky. You won't see that no more, right? You won't see that no more. If a mid-major wins a first-round game, that's a great success. But having them march on like we've seen a George Mason, a VCU with Shaka Smartnose, a Wichita State, UMBC, those days are gone. And I mean, I would be shocked if that happens in this day and age. But it's clearly evident a lot of those kids are going to the big market schools because obviously they have the money. And at the end of the day, it's just not working out like that. And I'll be honest with you, I remember last year, Coach Pitino basically said that, look, it might do it some good to have the ACC and the Big East merge to be able to stand on solid ground with the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC, because that's what it has come to at this point. I'm happy that kids are getting paid, but it's clearly hurt the whole idea of Cinderella making and having a major impact in the NCAA tournament.
But to me, I look at it like, how is this different than in the 90s when the big name schools, Duke, Georgetown, Connecticut, UCLA, they got all the big name players, but you still had mid majors that would make significant runs. Like because what were they were paying the players back then? They just didn't call it NIL. Everything was under the table because the NCAA was so dirty and still is. How is it worse now than it was back then?
Because I think back then you would go based upon the coach, right? You would go there, you would go somewhere and develop. Like now it's essentially, look, mid-majors are now like a farm system, right? I would say if you want to look at like at the NBA, it's a G League, right? You will basically go a certain place, evolve, have your game develop, and then at that point you enter the transfer portal, and now you go into the best school with the best option, and it's money driven, right? And you're right, it's 1,000%. It was like that in the past, but it's just so to the point now that it's almost impossible to see a school like a Hofstra to be able to say we can make a deep run. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. We won't see that just due to the fact that the economics of the game of basketball and understanding where your power conferences lie. Like you think about what's offered in the Big 12, right? From NBA type players, talented players that's going to be drafted, and some of those teams and stuff like that, they're getting like 8 to 10 teams in the tournament. So, it's just so much of the depth that's in these power conferences, just based upon the fact it's the money, i.e. driven by the football revenue, that again has further watered down what has existed in the mid-majors.
It's you're again, you're 1,000% correct. If you watch what is it, Requiem, that 30 for 30 Requiem for the East, for the Big East. If you watch that 30 for 30, it breaks down all this and foresees all of this happening. So it is crazy. I tell you one thing, one mid-major that we're certainly behind here in St. Louis, Mo. We're proud as hell of these Billikens. We hope the St. Louis U can do something. Hopefully they can. I'm not sure if they're in the A10 championship, but they're definitely going to get a tournament bid. That's a mid-major right there that we want to see do something. And I think legit can. And one of my co-hosts, he's a sideline reporter for them. He actually has them good enough to go to the Final Four, which I was surprised about. So I would love to see. And right now, before we get out of here, I need give me a Final Four for you. Give me a Final Four real quick.
Hey, you know what? As much as I like Duke, I think Duke, I have to put them in there. I don't, I'm not a big Duke fan, but I got to say Duke. I think Arizona has been on an incredible run.
Yeah, they have.
I think Duke, Arizona, Florida really has played some great basketball.
Right.
And I'm torn between Michigan and Arkansas being that other team there. Michigan with that size that they pose. And Arkansas, Darius Acuff has been playing phenomenal, and they got size there. But I'd probably go out on a limb and say Michigan. It's just really size. They just got an incredible size, and they utilize their bigs. But look, I hope it works out for St. Louis. It was really a big thing for them to be able to retain their coach and stuff. And, that is big and monumental because, again, obviously having the success and stuff like that with that program, it really goes a long way and really lends to the A10 having at least multiple teams in the NCAA tournament, because like I said before, for all intents and purposes, you're getting 10 and 12 teams out of a conference just really doesn't make any sense. But it's because they have so much of the talent that's there. And a lot of their teams are damn near all in the top 25.
Right. It's sad. It sucks when it's just like a one conference is running everything in college basketball, even college football. Another reason why I don't even watch college football, Mr. Brown, because college football to me is janky and set up only for the big schools to make it. You'll never see a Vanderbilt or a smaller school win a national championship. It's just not set up like that. I can never follow a sport where one year the championship is a Sugar Bowl, then the next year the championship is a Rose Bowl. That doesn't make any sense to me. I can never get behind it.
I've always argued the same thing. Like, why is it that, granted, you have 68 teams or whatever in the NCAA tournament, but why is it that the college football presidents cannot establish a tournament format that is similar to what is in the NCAA tournament? Now, I'm not saying implement that many teams in there, but have a format where now you implement all of these smaller bowl games and make them sort of like first round matchup areas and stuff, and allow people to move on. Because you're right. Outside of the playoff system, it really devalues all these other bowl games where the Gator Bowl at one point was something, and you have this bowl here, you have this, all these different bowls. If really come up with a system that allows the college football playoffs to really consist of what the bowl season is all about. And you have these first, second round matchup sites and allowing these bowls to have some type of relevancy. But, again, it's all controlled about money. That's why you have these conferences. And, I'll give you a school that at one point, they might have been the closest thing, on the last one we would see that's closest to that, and that was Boise State.
You're right.
Boise State had that unbelievable run and all that stuff. I think they beat Oklahoma. I don't think we'll see that. And I mean, from what I understand, it's not a question of if, but don't be surprised within the next few years or so that the SEC decides to sort of spearhead a push to sort of disband themselves from the NCAA and run their own show.
What? You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That has been talked about.
Oh,
in fact,
God.
SEC President Greg Sankey was really trying to sort of squash some of those rumors and stuff like that, and he didn't do a real good job of that. But there has been talk about the fact is that the SEC and the Big Ten, as well as the Big 12, would sort of break away from the NCAA and do their own thing, because technically, why are they a part of the NCAA?
Right. So they
if you look at violations, rules, infractions, all that stuff went out the window.
That's
right?
Crazy.
It's turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
All of that stuff has gone out the window. And clearly, it's no benefit for the SEC and these power conferences to have the NCAA.
Right.
They can be able to do what they want, set up the rules how they want. And I think that that's what it's going to come to, especially with the college football playoffs.
Would it be just football or basketball as well?
I think it would just be football.
Right.
But I think the handwriting's on the wall. Anytime when you're having schools like Memphis is being considered to possibly go into the new Pac-12, like there was a point in time where you had conferences that geographically made sense, right?
Right.
You know, yep. It doesn't make any sense now at all. You know, and what it's going to be. And now I think it's furthermore, you're going to see some of these smaller conferences, maybe like a A10 and maybe the Big Ten, the Big East, or, you know, some of these other conferences, the Big East and the ACC and maybe the A10 merge to be able to sustain, because at the end of the day, the money is all driven for college football and the TV revenue, and then be able to sustain that. You know, the Big East doesn't offer football. So they're going to have to figure out ways to be able to continue to generate enough revenue that maybe one of the things is merging with the ACC as well as perhaps the A10.
That is ridiculous. Well, you guys hear him. You see how this man can break down almost any sport that I throw at him. That's why he is still a host over at Sirius XM on the sports channels. This man knows sports in and out. Before we get out of here, what are your little Buccaneers going to do this year? What they going to do?
You know what? We're going to get back to prominence and dominance and running the NFC South. You know, I must say that, again, I was a little disappointed that Mike Evans, in the way he left, you know, kind of lends it up in the air and saying Todd Bowles, you know, is obviously maybe one of the reasons why he wanted to leave. And, you know, I just say that obviously, you know what, Black and brown individuals don't really get an opportunity really to be able to sustain those positions and stuff. And I look at what Todd Bowles has done. I was just questioning why his job was ever being thought about being in jeopardy, just as simply the fact that they had won the division. I think he's won it three years in a row. So, I mean, again, it's hard to do that. They had definitely some setback with injuries and stuff, but we're going to be all right. We're definitely going to be all right. And Todd Bowles, we trust.
No doubt. Okay. And I'm glad you said that. That's your guy. I'll be full transparency with you. We did a football episode. You know, because High Off the Glass, we focus on cannabis and basketball, but we talk all sports and current events. And I did a football episode before the playoffs started, and I went in on your boy. I can't stand Todd Bowles. I am happy that brother is a head coach somewhere, because like you said, there are not too many black and brown folks at all, especially in this last coaching cycle. You got 10 openings, and not one goes to an African-American. That is disgusting. But I think Todd needs to get the hell out of there. I do not like him as a coach. You had the greatest quarterback ever, and he sucked all the emotion and all the gravitas that y'all had after winning that championship. He sucked it all out of that team with his lack of emotion. And who should have been the head coach? And I'm surprised you never said this on your show. Maybe you had, and I just missed it. How is Byron Leftwich not y'all head coach? Like he was. I mean, I know he was a quarterback for the Jags, but he was an OC when y'all won it. That man should be a head coach, or he should be a head coach somewhere in that league. I'm just pissed off that he's not there, and Todd gets on my nerves.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Why does Todd Bowles get on your nerves?
Todd gets on my nerves because it just seems like even when even that press conference, Mr. Brown, where he was upset and cussing, he still was low key. It's like, how can you be upset, but you're still quiet and and they need to figure it the F out and and this is their livelihood and this is their effing job and you need to, but you still sound so mundane. You sound like Tony Dungy if he took a downer. Like that's what I don't get on Todd, man. That's what I don't get with him.
That's just his demeanor. And I think at the end of the day, you know, he's going to be judged if a situation where if he was out loud, he was so aggressive, oh my God, he's out of control. Right. So, I mean, it can go so many different ways. And look, that man was with the Jets, and the Jets are the Jets, right? He was there. Right. Again, defensively, the team was very talented, but offensively, they didn't have the support system in there, right? And I look at the fact and say, okay, yeah. You know, Brady comes back, and look, Brady even admitted that the fact is that he was going through some situations in regards of his marriage. It was on the rocks. That wasn't sharp. They still made the playoffs, and they had a situation where, again, on that untimely blitz, I go against it and say, yeah, that wasn't a great thing that Bowles did. The blitz and Cooper Kupp catches the pass. And now the Rams move on, and they beat the Buccaneers. It was an incredible run. So, I mean, to win the division as long as the Buccaneers has, and under him, I mean, it takes both sides, right? Keep in mind, he's lost 3 offensive coordinators, right? He goes from Dave Canellis, he gets it 1 year removed, he gets the job with the Panthers. Same thing with Liam Cohen. 1 year removed, he gets the job with the Jags. And then they tried it again this past season. It didn't work out. So I think it's really interesting where he gets all the blame, but not enough of the credit. But yet the fact is, he didn't draft these players. He didn't sign these players in free agency. So they had a lot of deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. And let's be honest, Baker Mayfield started off hot. He endured a lot of injuries. Mike Evans was injured. He was missed a lot of the time.
Godwin.
Godwin, and then so forth and so on, even Bucky Urban. So to have it end the way it ended, I totally get it. Look, I was in the stadium when they lost that game on a 3rd and 23 or whatever against the Atlanta Falcons, and they lost that game. I was there. It's hard. It really is hard. But you know what? We're, as fans, we can get very emotional. But at the end of the day, you got to really look at this team and say, look, it's not like he's gotten the opportunity to really get big-time free agents. Look who they've gotten in the free agency moves they've made. They're coming in with a lot of guys that they got to be able to develop and got to really hit. And so it's a lot of things that I think a lot of the times fans, we will overlook and say, oh, well, you know what? He should get all the blame and all these things, when at the end of the day, he's not making the decisions on free agents and all this other stuff. You know, that's ownership. So, you know, again, I'm gonna give him some grace, because again, Baker Mayfield and then what he was able to do, you know, the transition from Tom Brady to, to Baker Mayfield, it hasn't been a smooth one, but again, you know, I'm gonna keep the faith, and everybody's entitled to their opinion.
I get it, and I love for you saying that. That's bringing some nuance to this conversation that I didn't have, so I appreciate that. And you got to tell me this too: how a Harlem kid become a Tampa Bay fan? What?
Hey man, let me tell you something. When I saw Tony, so back then, I remember that, you know, when you live in the New York tri-state market, you only get the Jets and Giants. And I could not stand just watching the Jets and Giants. And I always felt compelled to say, man, I want to watch some of the best games available. And at the same time, you know, I was a Florida State football fan. I was familiar with Derek Brooks. I was familiar with Warren Sapp. And then I see this coach that looks somebody like me. And I'm saying, wow, you got to support a man that looks like me. And granted, Art Shell was there before. I thought it was always important.
I didn't know that.
I mean, well, Art Shell, you know, obviously was one of the first African-American head coaches. But I think clearly, you know, with Tony Dungy being there and really just, I fell in love with it. I was like, man, you know, he's reviving his team and his program, and he waited so long for his opportunity.
No doubt.
And, you know, I just fell in love with it and said, hey, man, let's get this thing going. And granted, you know what, that bad call by the official against the Rams when they were in St. Louis, and then Ricky Kroll and stuff like that. I mean, that still bothers me, man.
No doubt. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised you stuck with him after they screwed over Tony and brought what you call it in, like that from Oakland. That was crazy.
You know why?
He won with Tony's team.
Yeah, and the thing is, Tony took them as far as they could go. Right. And I mean, there was like in Philly, there was just no excuse. Like they couldn't figure out what to do with the quarterback position and offensively. And I tell you, they have a great documentary series on Amazon about the Buccaneers. And it really was revealed where they talked to Tony about making some changes with the offensive coordinator. He was against it. At first, he was with it. And then all of a sudden, after 1 year, they had success. And he let the guy go. I believe it was Les Steckel. And it just really spoke volumes to the fact is, look, just couldn't beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia owned us, you know, and just all those things. And, you know, the struggles of being able to, if we were able to just have some type of hope. I mean, look, that Bert Emanuel, it was a catch. They ruled as an incomplete pass in that game against the St. Louis Rams and stuff. I think his fortunes would have changed if we would have been able to win that game because that defense was dominant, one of the best of all time. But at the end of the day, it just ran its course. And John Gruden was an offensive-minded guy, came in there, was able to beat the Eagles and win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, you know, I always give an opportunity to see exactly if they made the right decision when they make the decision. And it so happens that it was the correct one. And look, Tony went on, have success in Indianapolis, and you know, the Buccaneers has continued on.
That is, man, that's awesome. I love how you breaking down your team. Mr. Brown, this was outstanding. Real quick before we get out of here, I gotta mention this is one segment that I do on my show, and I love doing it. It is basically today's Black History moment. Today, 1999, believe it or not, Maurice Ashley becomes the world's first class grandmaster in chess. First black man to be a grandmaster in chess. That happened today in 1999. So major shout out to him. And we lost an icon last week. The funeral was everything with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I did not do a show last week, so I have to mention it today. I'm going to talk about it next week, y'all, when I don't have an esteemed guest like I have today, because I have some thoughts on that funeral, and especially the speeches that that our politicians gave. So I'm going to talk about that next week. But major shout out to Roland Martin for having that on his network. If you guys don't, please either subscribe or patronize that brother. That brother could use the support because he is the only real black news network that we have in this country, and we definitely need it now. Mr. Brown, this was everything, bro. I have a NBA sports trivia game that I wanted to play with you, but we ran out of time. I hope I can have you back. What do you think about you coming back on the show?
Hey man, listen, you made you said, hey man, you got to start responding to people on social media and IG. And you know what? I took heed to that. So all you have to do, brother, is just let me know. I just say, first and foremost, man, hey, I love what you're doing here, man. And one of the things that I've always said, that even going from a podcast to being on Sirius XM, it was always important, man, to try to reach back, because there's so many talented people out there that cover these sporting events and really provide tremendous insight on the game. And that's what we really need. We need to have less arguing and really, really demeaning people, and more of just respecting people's views and opinions, and give the opportunity to see things from their perspective. And then we can agree to disagree. But I want to say that, man, you know what? Appreciate all the love and the support that you have given to the Bottom Line Sports Show over the course of time, man. And it will be my pleasure and honor to come back on in the future, man. All you got to do, reach out, say the word. Let's go ahead and make it happen. And definitely let's do it let's do it around the playoffs or whatever, man. Just hit me up and let me know. And definitely, man, continued success in all that you do. Oh, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will definitely do that. Y'all hear it. The brother's down to come back. I'm going to hit you up. I'm thinking maybe late April, maybe like after the first week of the first round. That's when I would love to have you on, because I want to have your opinion. Tell the folks where they can find your show.
Hey, it's right now, Rick Mahorn and I, the Bottom Line Sports Show, is on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/TheBLine Sports Show. So that's B as in boy, LINE Sports Show on YouTube. We have a new show up every Tuesday. This week we're going Wednesdays. For the next couple of Wednesdays, for the next couple of weeks, we're gonna have Wednesdays. So definitely check it out. Subscribe to the channel, support, and you definitely will not be disappointed at all.
Oh, they will not. You will not. That show is outstanding. The brother has a voice for radio and a face for TV. Mr. Brown, this was awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate
you, man. All the best. Oh, I appreciate you, brother.
Right on, bro. Be safe. I'll hit you up. Peace. Thank you.
Okay. Peace.
Listen, peace. We gone. Deuces. What an episode. Man, that was so dope having that brother on, man. Gerald Brown is outstanding.